So just a revision, I suppose, summary, what will the next crop need? Well, obviously the whole physical access to the machinery and getting machines there, that's your first priority, and I'm sure Tim will talk more about that. Fertiliser, as I said, you're going to have to mollycoddle this first crop through because you're not going to get a lot of help from your organic matter. There's not much mineralisation going on. The microbes are coming back, but they need live root systems to keep coming back. You need to introduce some organic matter. So things like nitrogen, phosphorus, sulphur and zinc, I would suggest are all going to need examination and probably put on. I haven't put potassium up there because of what I described there before. Potassium and calcium are more mineralogy derived, the clay minerals themselves, and they will come through, but they'll be very slow, moving from that mineral lattice K or that background K into those available pools. Takes a bit of time, and also depends on those wetting and drying cycles, because you need that cation exchange capacity working properly, because that's where potassium is held before it goes into that water soluble pool where the plants can take it. It's held in that CEC. To fill that up, you need that structure back in place, and you need some hot weather, and you need some drying cycles, and you need some crop growth. So I would even suggest that K may be worth a look at in this first crop as well. Aeration and stored moisture, plough rip, they're the next priorities. You know, you've got to get some oxygen happening. Without oxygen, nothing much else happens. If you have anaerobic situations, the longer they go on for, the more you've got the wrong microbes operating, and you want the good ones. And also, you want stored moisture. You're going to need, if you're getting ready for the next winter crop, you've got a bit of time, but you're going to need planting rain to do that, and you want to make sure that you can get as much of that rainfall as possible. And that's why a couple of pictures there, you know, you can go a full disturbance strip like that, or maybe you do something a little bit different, maybe a hybrid, depending on how you think it's going to work. And if you've got GPS that's good enough, maybe you just rip the lines you're going to plant and get that first crop up and going. And the last point there, a good strike in hard conditions, and we learnt that over on the Comet and the Nagoa and Teresa Creek after those floods. It's bloody hard going, planting into that first crop. It tends to be a bit hard setting, it cheeses up on you, it's hard to get some tilth and some seed soil contact. You're winding the press wheels up to bugger and all sorts of things. So have a little bit of think about your planting operation, whether you're using a tine or a double disc opener, or whether you're using a single disc opener or a coulter and a tine, or whether you go full disturbance for this crop. Have a bit of a think about that, because that's going to make probably a huge impact on getting that first crop up and out of the ground and being successful. And if you are going to do some ripping, perfect opportunity, or some ploughing, perfect opportunity to get some fertiliser in the ground. So think a bit ahead of time and use that operation for a couple of things. Over the long term, as the years keep going, just a few suggestions or pointers there. I mean, the ultimate is growing crops. Your quickest recovery will be through crop cycling. For all those reasons that you've got clay soils, wetting and drying, you've got canopy cover, so you're making the most of rainfall, you're getting stubble left over, and that's the start of your new organic matter. It may be even worth, once you've got a couple of crops worth of stubble there, plough it in, because the faster, that's the only way you're going to get fast breakdown and a bit of mixing in that topsoil, rather than if you just leave it there, you're going to get a bit of stratification, and that may not be ideal in these first couple of years as you're trying to recover. For those real bad areas, and you want to hot inject the organic matter side of things, you want to get it going, you're impatient. Look, you can go manure application. To me, it's good stuff. We used to use it at Gnu. You must incorporate it though. There's no point leaving it out on the surface soil. If you are going to use manure, don't count on the nitrogen too much, because every time you move manure, you'll get that ammonia smell. That's nitrogen pissing off the atmosphere. So, and it'll change in different manures depending which feedlot yard. You'll have a whole range of nitrogen contents in there. But it's an excellent source of phosphorus. It's an excellent source of potassium and sulphur. If it's handled right, it's got a heap of bugs in there ready to go, mostly the right bugs, again if the manure has been handled properly. So it's a great way to kick things off. Your other options, green manure crops, grow something fairly quick and get all that carbon source back in the ground, and then you start to have an organic carbon source, and then the other things can start hanging off that. Legume lays. Legumes are not bad green manure crops because, one, they're creating their own nitrogen. They are essentially a high protein crop, so they tend to have a bit of nitrogen in their crop. You haven't provided that nitrogen, and then you plough it in and you're getting a good organic source and a good nitrogen source. So, you know, things like lab or cowpea or even some of your more vegetative soybean crops are really good as green manure crops. The sugarcane guys use soybeans as that, basically, as a green manure crop. But that doesn't suit everybody, and you've got to balance up cash flow with what you want to do. But if you just, you know, some real bad areas that you think it's going to take a long time, maybe you can inject a bit of good stuff in there. Talking about that surface structure, you know, that cation exchange capacity, those clays collapsing a bit, getting those electrolytes back in. Gypsum is an excellent source of doing that. Calcium is dominant on most of your cation exchange capacities, so injecting a bit of gypsum in there helps breaking up that surface soil and start to get a bit more structure in there, and that'll help reduce that hard packing and that surface sealing, and hopefully you're getting more water in the profile. I wouldn't go chickpeas. I'd go wheat, to be quite honest, mainly because I'm going to have the stubble cover coming back and I'll have more organic matter there. Chickpeas, you don't have to worry about the nitrogen, obviously, and it is a crop that can crack things out, but it won't give you the uniform tilth that wheat will. You know, I just know when you come back in irrigation fields that have been cut and filled, my preference was always wheat straight after it because it just did the best job. You could get a cotton crop straight back into that wheat stubble and it would go well. It was just, I reckon wheat is the ultimate in terms of getting that structure back again. It just has all those fine little root systems, lots of pores, and if you have a good year and get a good healthy root mass there, you know, that's an excellent organic carbon source. Chickpeas is just, you know, it's a bit more tight-fisted old chickies. You know, it's hard-fisted, it can get going, it's got a taproot, but I would suggest it doesn't give you as many pores within the soil where the roots are distributing, because, you know, one's an adventitious root system, the other one's more a taprooted system. So I would go wheat, but yeah. Oh yeah, and that surface structure, maybe some strategic ripping. Remember, if you're applying gypsum, you really got to incorporate it, same as manure. Some guys I've seen down on the border regions there where they had some of these more marginal country that they developed, they actually mixed gypsum and manure together and spread it on to try and, after they cut and filled and getting the first cropping. And that seemed to work pretty well. Silt patches, as we've discussed, I don't know any easy way out of it, but maybe Tim does. To me, the rule of thumb is dry it out, spread it out. You know, and when I say spread it out, I don't mean get a scraper in and haul it back up to the top of the field. I just mean dry it out and spread it out to a point that you can then start farming across it. And the other thing is crop selection. Robust, good root systems, low risk, and going to provide you with the start of your organic carbon. You know, sorghum and wheat are good for that. Chickpeas are pretty good, but no stubble, versus maize and mung beans who are, you know, they're a bit wimpy, that's all. And just to end on a happier note, because having gone through this a bit before, you can get a bit down in the mouth and all this sort of stuff, but you'll be surprised in these clay soils, the self-mulching characteristics, you'll be surprised how quickly it comes back. And you will go from there to there, you know, probably quicker than you think. But, you know, it's probably at least a couple of years before you start feeling like you're anywhere close to normal again. So just be ready for that. And look after that first crop. As I say, mollycoddle it a bit. And the more successful that crop is, better your cash flow, but also the faster things start happening for you.